Hello there, it's Josh here from racing2profit.co.uk, coming to you on the 7th of January 2020. A belated Happy New Year to you all. I hope you had a great festive period, relaxing, possibly profitable. Um, this video is was kind of taken from my weekly members post, my Tracker Tuesday post, not the most original of names. I'm not sure if I've stolen that from a Racing Post feature or they stole it from me, but probably the former. But it works well. Where I am attempting to highlight some kind of handicap chasers, which caught my eye for various reasons, who I think may go close or run well on their kind of next few starts, and I track those kind of for 3 runs, subsequent runs within the members post, if nothing else, to try and help me land on a few winners. And part of that Tracker Tuesday post and looking at eye catchers. Of course, there are many things you can look at, including this kind of imperative, I suppose, of kind of actually watching some races and trying to spot various different things. But another thing you can look at, not only in trying to find eye catchers and horses of the future that may be of interest, but in general to improve all of our betting, is the idea of hot form. Hot form, and what do I mean by hot form? And I'm going to spend this video with a example of it, and you'll be able to track some of the horses I mentioned in the weeks ahead to see if this plays out. What I mean by hot form is races that have worked out well. And that's an indication of many things, including horses performing and running in races which either possibly had their fellow competitors that they were in and around, were well handicapped, were clearly, well, possibly fit, in form, running well, and when they're races which are kind of packed with progressive, young, more to come type horses, that's even more of a positive. And by hot form, I'm talking about simply races that are working out well, where horses to run subsequently are performing well, are winning, are placing, and therefore give you a kind of way in to assessing the level of ability of the horses that have yet to run, or indeed give you more confidence that those horses that have yet to run from those hot form races may be worth tracking, even more so if they're powerful yards and exposed, and having kind of blabbled on for 3 minutes. It's probably a good idea to show an example. So, the 1st of January, Exeter. This race was won by Captain Drake for the banging form Harry Fryard at the time. He was unexposed. I'm not going to focus on this race in particular, but he was lightly raced coming into this off 127. And the race I want to focus on as a kind of race to track, I suppose, is his run before, which is second start of the season. He unseated the rider. Wasn't a bad error. He more sprawled on landing, didn't get the landing gear out. I'm not quite sure what happened there. But he was probably going to finish third or fourth. Now, his win has ensured that, and I'm in the excellent Gigi's Gold, which I haven't mentioned. I'm not here to sell this particular piece of kit today, but as an aside, if one of your New Year's resolutions is to try and become your own expert, or maybe improve your own skills, your race reading skills, or even if you have an ambition to find more of your own winners, you could do much worse than take the £1 30-day trial for Gigi's Gold, a link of which you can get below this video, because they are the best set of racing tools in the game. And you don't need me to tell you that. That's the purpose of the 30-day trials. You can poke around yourself. But I'm in the race cards here, and one of the many excellent features, as well as all these trainer forms and icons and everything else, is this then what feature, which gives you an easy kind of glance at how the races these horses have been running in have been working out. So it's this race I want to focus on here, although you can see by Captain Drake, many of his races have worked out well, and that is always more of a positive. And a big positive if horses have been running in races which have produced many subsequent winners for those reasons I touched on near the beginning. So I just want to focus on this Exeter race as I tick round to 5.5 minutes, but hopefully you're engrossed, enthralled, excited about the prospects of taking a run with Gigi's Gold, but more importantly, are excited about the prospect of tracking some of the horses from this race. So, I've mentioned Captain Drake, who clearly won that race we just talked about. He was going to come fourth, I reckon, plodding on. How this race has kind of worked out and his level of form there. He won there. He beat King's Writ, who's decent enough yardstick for Kaylee Wallacott. Won off 127. He looks like a dour plodder, so he might be worth keeping an eye on. He could be one for one of these kind of regional national types, possibly the one back at Exeter, whenever that is, over 3 miles 6 or whatever. Could be worth a go over a trip, as he looks like he just plods and plods. So he ran in this race. Now, not the chance he would go on to run. Now, he didn't frank the form as such, but he was whacked up £9, and he was a kind of close 3-length defeat in a Class 3 handicap chase at Newbury. That had quite a few unexposed ones in it as well, so that's not too bad of form. Cloudy Glen for Venetia, as you can see here, kind of ran well at Carlisle, dropped back in trip, 127. It's hard to say what the level of this form is in particular, but like I said, when you've got these unexposed horses and they're winning, tracking these kind of races and keeping an eye on them, and using them as a way in, if nothing else, to some other horses is a good thing. And these horses winning is a good thing. Worthy Farm, you can see here. So you can see the horses which have yet to run, which I'll focus on in a minute. Worthy Farm came out and won on his next start. He looked a bit lazy. He had some decent hurdles for, which indicated a mark of 125 maybe within range. And, that was only the 9th run of his life. Heavy ground was a question. They put blinkers on to try and sharpen him up. It worked. He won that off 11 stone 12 off 125, an RPR Racing Post rating of 136. That's another thing about Gigi's Gold. You've got Racing Post ratings and top speed ratings all in one place, which is always useful. No need to keep jumping over to the Racing Post. And those two were clear, and the Broadcliffe, because I tipped him at 12-1, and another agonising second, bumping in to an unexposed nickel horse who responded to blinkers, the bugger. But those two were clear, and Broadcliffe might be one to add into your trackers as well, because I think he's got that plodding, staying chase in him based on that evidence as well. But that's an aside. So Worthy Farm has franked the form. So all of this is indicating that this was a race, as you'd expect, a novice limited handicap chase. Lots of lightly raced chasers, but they could all have been useless. They could all have been kind of subsequently running and not doing much. But the early indications is that this race at a certain level, kind of the low 120s to the low 130s, the kind of Class 3 level, could be one to keep an eye on. So with that information, when a race is starting to kind of build up a hot form profile, you obviously diving into these horses that have won, Worthy Farm next time, Captain Drake next time. They may not be value prices, they may, and may be worth keeping an eye on. Nor Cloudy Glen necessarily, but we have two here. We've got The Name Evades Me for Fergal O'Brien, who came second. Like I said, Captain Drake probably would have finished third, and he's won since, making a mark of 127 for The Name Evades Me look workable, especially then when you look at the fact that was only the 8th run of his life, the second chase. He's entitled to get better for experience. He clearly came on for that run and return at Chepstow, and you can see some of his form here. Third in a Class 2 handicap hurdle at Newbury. Now, of course, you're free to go and look into all of these races yourself if you want. Staying on second in a Class 2 handicap hurdle at Cheltenham in January to Au Petit Soin, who was off 1-4-1, and he went on to win since. Forecast behind, he won since. The horse for Nigel Twiston-Davies, saying that is easier than pronouncing it, having not looked at this race before. Bobo Mac, Lord de Mesnil, God, he hasn't stopped winning since in recent weeks. So this, jumping around when you get into like hot form and you start looking at all of these things, races like this just kind of suddenly jump out as something to keep an eye on as well. So you're free to pause this video and do whatever you please, but I'm focusing on The Name Evades Me, aren't I? And that gives hope. All of this form is stacking up, and Kilfillan Cross, that's good form as well. I do like when trainers, if they earmark a chase for the future, they don't hang around too long over hurdles. I always think that's a positive. So this form's starting to build up. The evidence suggests The Name Evades Me is going to make a mark of 127 look decent at some point. He ran a 138 on Racing Post ratings. All the form, the fact he had a 127 horse, Captain Drake, who's since come out and won by kind of 5 lengths. His hurdles form indicates he's well handicapped. That doesn't mean he's, you just automatically back him next time. You need to look at the horse, make an assessment on conditions, whether they suit, watch the replay of this race, how did he jump, how did he travel. But at some point, if he stays sound, etc., doesn't have any problems, he's going to make 127 look lenient, and the indications are he's well handicapped. And of course, he's open to natural progression. Whether or not he's a value price next time, he was sent off favourite here. Value is always in the eye of the beholder and very subjective, but clearly that's a horse to note down given everything I've said, as is Southern Sam, for various reasons. Again, Oliver Sherwood, brilliant trainer, obviously, does like a good solid chaser. This one may have needed the run also. The thing I was going to say about The Name Evades Me, that Chepstow, Cheltenham's second in the Class 2 over 24 furlongs, stiff track obviously. This Exeter race, he was staying on. Still, age 7 gives an indication that he might be worth a go over 26 furlongs, and he might get further in time, or they may find a lesser race for him, or be more aggressive from the front end, and to use that stamina. But it looks like on the evidence so far that 3 miles is kind of the minimum he wants. So I've darted back there. Let me dart back to Southern Sam as I tick around to 12 minutes. But I could have tried to be quicker here with this video, but hopefully you're finding it of some use and you have the notebook at the ready, all with the aim of trying to help you hopefully find some more winners and more profits of the future, and indeed myself. Right, Southern Sam looks decent and worth tracking as well. Obviously this race, as I've just discussed, he's a winner. Horses with proven winning form is always useful. It's always good to know that a horse has the ability to battle, isn't scared of going past horses, or responds to pressure and actually can get their head down and win. You can see some of his novice hurdle, maiden hurdle form here. Again, you could dive into some of these races. Some of these have worked out okay as well, I think. But it's this Sandown race, both as an indication of Southern Sam, but also as a race also to track moving forwards. So Southern Sam 1-2-4, he's got chases in him. He's worth tracking. All his form is starting to stack up. Now he came running on. And if we look at this race, so this was the 9th of March, the European Breeders' Fund Matchbook National Hunt Novices Handicap Hurdle Final Grade 3 for horses aged 4 to 7. I think this is usually a very, very hot race, and note this race down for this season to keep an eye on all the runners that come out of this. This is one of those handicap hurdles, I think, through a season that's worth tracking, a bit like sometimes the silver handicap is at Chepstow and various different others, through either the end of the season into the next season, or early season through the rest of the season, such as that Chepstow race. This is one of those where the horses in this are probably having their last run of the season before they go away for the summer. But goodness, it's working out well. So Third Wind has since won for Hughie Morrison fairly in good style, I should say. 1-3-1 was going into this race. He obviously probably got put up, and he's won since. One for Rosie's Place. Champagne Well has won since for Fergal O'Brien. Mill Green won at the weekend, making a return off 132. There is Southern Sam. And you can see some Scandyberg was down here for Ollie Murphy. Bolmere, who's now with Caroline Bailey and hacked up at Doncaster, having hacked up his run before. He looks like a chaser worth following over 3 miles. I mean, you can just look at the form. Even the ones tailed off out the back have done something since. So this is an indication that obviously they're lightly raced horses. It's National Hunt Novices Handicap Hurdle Finale. Obviously they're unexposed, but it's a kind of race which points towards some decent chasers of the future, possibly, because there's a few hidden within here. And Southern Sam would be one of those. So clearly that level of form is starting to stack up, and you would think he will make a mark of 124. I doubt he'll get dropped for this, but I'm not sure if he has been or not. He hasn't come out since, actually. Whether or not that indicates a problem or they're wanting to take their time with him. Always tricky. He's a 7-year-old and only had 6 runs, so maybe there's some questions there in terms of his kind of hardiness, I suppose. But he hasn't run since, so he's one worth tracking on that sense. What else? Who hasn't run? Trucking Away hasn't won for Philip Hobbs. He had Worthy Farm in behind. Like I said, Captain Drake would have been in front. He's lightly raced. Trying to indicate what may be his best conditions. His win was at Fosslas in heavy. Maybe he needs much softer ground. Maybe clearly hasn't all clicked for him just yet. But he had some okay hurdles for him, so maybe it's a question of when it all clicks. Maybe he just has the odd issue at the moment. Who knows? But that's another horse that form may suggest could be well handicapped. To beat AC Milan there, he's ran well a few times over hurdles this season in recent weeks from memory. Lisnagar Oscar, that was okay form at the time. Danny Whizbang, who's since come out, didn't he, and won that novice chase at Newbury from the top of my head over 3 miles, was it? And then he went to Kempton in the decent novice chase on Boxing Day, was it? But Kempton probably was too fast, too speedy for him. So you can see how, hopefully, this Focus, I tick around 17 minutes. On hot form, and when you start digging how all these different kind of races tie together, how different form ties together, and all of that came from me. Firstly, I left this race alone on the first. Firstly, going, how have I ignored Captain Drake because he was about 9 and got back to the 7-2. But taking that annoyance and that being annoyed not landing on Captain Drake in this particular race, but then using that information and knowledge to try and find profitable horses or horses worth following or keeping an eye on in the future. Time will tell. This doesn't always work out like this, and it isn't just as easy, as I said, of kind of diving in to some of those horses in the future moving forward, but certainly a useful way in, knowing that they've ran in races with unexposed horses that have since come out and run and won since, giving an indication that they could be well handicapped from their current mark, and they were racing in competitive races that may be more competitive than races that their trainers may be able to identify for them in the weeks ahead, but at the same time giving an idea and hope of the future that they will progress at some point, and you'll have a well handicapped horse on your hands. Like I said, away, and you can then assess other things, however you assess handicap chasers, their profile, ground preferences, hoping that they race prominently and aren't held up out the back, which is usually the worst place for a handicap chaser to be, etc., etc. I could drone on more, I suppose, but I'm ticking around to just gone 19 minutes, and to be honest, that's probably long enough, isn't it, for any video? But hopefully you've found that interesting. Like I said, do watch it again, maybe get your notebook out, pause different bits. I've paused a couple of races there, that Sandown novice handicap, a few others that have worked out well, but yeah, note down some of those horses. Like I said, this particular race here, which you can finish as we climb to 19.5 minutes, you can just focus on this race, maybe, and a couple of the horses from it. The name evades me, Southern Sam, Trucking Away, give the impression they may have wins in the future. in them. When that is, time will tell. But like I said, hopefully you found this video interesting. Hopefully it's given you some ideas. And yeah, thanks for watching. Like I said, if you want to kind of find your own winners or have a go and explore GG's Gold, I'm not going to put you off. Obviously, there's a pound trial at the link below for 30 days. It may completely transform some of your betting. Well, it will for some of you if you take the trial. But that wasn't the main purpose of this video. This video was to highlight some, well, talk about hot form, give you some ideas. If you're going to maybe apply one thing in the weeks ahead, if you do want to improve your own betting, you don't already look at hot form as part of your approach to analysis, I would strongly urge you to do so, and hopefully that video might make clear why that is the case. And this bit of kit allows you to see that form and click a few buttons and track it pretty easily. So with anything, well, with any luck, there's a few horses there for your tracker. They're in mine, and hopefully on the next few starts they may be winning, and I and you may land on the odd one and profit from them. But if not, hopefully these ideas will help you find some winners long into the future. So with that said, I will shut up now. Thank you for watching. As always, any questions, comments below the video, fire away. If you think I'm talking absolute nonsense or you've got any questions, as long as you're polite, criticism is always welcome, as are questions, ideas, other things you may have spotted. Are there any horses over the last couple of weeks or the festive period that went into your notebook that haven't run since, that you don't mind sharing with us? Whatever, post in the comments, say hello. But yes, this is Josh saying thanks for watching, and until the next time, bye for now.